She can't have children, they said, until a lonely cowboy with 5 kids picked her. Mara Vale stared at the dry red plains of Kestrel 9 from the window of the colony's shuttle. The horizon stretched endlessly, a harsh land of dust storms and jagged rocks, and yet it held the promise of survival. Mara had come to Kestrel 9 hoping for a new life, far from the crowded, judgmental cities of Earth. She had dreamed of discovering alien plants, studying their biology, and maybe, just maybe, finding her place in a world that hadn't welcomed her before. But the moment she arrived, the colony authority made it clear where she stood. "You're non-viable," the doctor had said. "You cannot have children. You may still work here, but you will not be considered for long-term family assignments. There are others better suited." Mara had forced a polite smile. She had heard this her whole life. On Earth, medical scans had told her the same thing. Her womb, they said, was incapable of bearing life. Her body, though healthy in every other way, was incomplete in the most human sense. And now, across the stars, the verdict remained the same. She turned away from the window and walked through the crowded corridors of the colony shuttle. Colonists bustled about, carrying supplies, checking equipment, talking in hurried voices about family units, food rations, and settlement schedules. Mara moved quietly, keeping her head down. She didn't belong in any of the family conversations. Not really. She was a single woman, labeled unfit for one of the colony's most important purposes, survival through reproduction. It wasn't that Mara didn't want children. She loved them. She had always loved them. But she had learned to live with the knowledge that her love would never be returned in the way the world expected. Here on Kestrel 9, she would be a scientist, a worker, a helper, nothing more. Meanwhile, miles across the plains, Caleb Rourke rode his dust-covered speeder through the Badlands. The wind tugged at his coat, and the 5 children following him in smaller hover carts struggled to keep pace. Caleb had been alone for years, a widowed cowboy raising 5 children orphaned by space raids. Some nights, he lay awake listening to the hum of the settlement generators, thinking that life had taken everything from him and given him nothing in return. Yet somehow he kept going. Somehow he managed to feed, clothe, and protect these 5 small humans, each with their own scars, fears, and hopes. Caleb's life was not easy, but it was honest. It was human. And he loved these children as fiercely as if they had been born from his own body. It was Caleb who first saw Mara's name on the colony's new pairing list. The list was intended to assign colonists into family units, to maximize survival and genetic viability. Mara was at the bottom of the list, dismissed as unsuitable. Caleb didn't care. He didn't care that she couldn't have biological children. He didn't care that she had no family, no history, no apparent reason to join a frontier rancher and his 5 adopted kids. All Caleb cared about was seeing a human being's value beyond what a database could measure, and Mara Vale had that value. The shuttle carrying Mara docked at the settlement hub. She stepped onto the dusty platform, her boots kicking up red dirt. Her eyes scanned the crowd of colonists and her heart sank slightly. She didn't see anyone she recognized, except for a man standing at the far edge, waiting. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a long coat that flapped in the wind. His eyes, sharp and steady, met hers. "You must be Mara," he said, his voice calm but firm. "I'm Caleb Rourke, you're coming with me." Mara hesitated. I wasn't expecting, neither was I," Caleb interrupted with a small smile. "But expectations don't matter here. We survive. We adapt. That's all that counts." And just like that, Mara's life shifted. The ride to Caleb's ranch was long, almost silent at first. Mara looked out over the plains, noting the jagged rocks, the patches of green struggling to survive amid the red dust. Occasionally, Caleb spoke, pointing out landmarks, explaining the different types of terrain. The children followed in their hover carts, curious but cautious. Mara could see their hesitation. They had been through many caregivers before, people who promised stability and vanished. She understood their wariness. Finally, they arrived at the ranch. It was not a luxurious settlement. A few metal buildings, a small greenhouse, and a corral made from rough timber and salvaged parts. The children scattered, exploring with cautious excitement. Mara followed, unsure of what to do. "Dinner's ready," Caleb said, heading toward a small table outside. He gestured for her to sit. The children came together slowly, still sizing her up. Mara realized she was nervous. She had never been in a family like this before, not really. "Don't worry," Caleb said, noticing her hesitation. "They'll warm up, just be patient." "You don't have to be perfect, you just have to be present." Mara nodded. It was easier said than done, but she understood. Here, in this harsh new world, perfection was what kept people alive. Courage, ingenuity, and persistence were. Over the next few days, Mara settled into life at the ranch. She helped with the hydroponic gardens, taught the children about alien plants, and learned how to operate the speeder carts. At first, the children were distant, testing her with pranks and small rebellions. But slowly, Mara won their trust. She listened when they spoke, taught them things that were practical and fascinating, and even let them climb onto her back during long treks across the plains. One evening, as the twin suns of Kestrel 9 dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery oranges and purples, Mara sat with Caleb by the campfire. The children had gone to bed, exhausted from a day of learning and play. "You're different," Caleb said quietly. "Most people would have looked at this place and walked away. You stayed, you didn't run." Mara shrugged, poking at the fire. "I don't know if it's courage, maybe it's stubbornness, or maybe I just want to matter somewhere." "You matter," Caleb said simply. "You matter here." And so do they. For the first time in a long while, Mara felt the weight on her chest lighten. She had expected rejection, dismissal, loneliness. Instead, she found herself part of a new kind of family, a family chosen, not assigned. The next morning, Mara woke to the sound of the children giggling outside. They had built a small obstacle course for her, challenging her to climb, jump, and run with them. Mara laughed, feeling alive in a way she hadn't in years. As she moved through the exercises, she realized that she was no longer the woman the colony authority had written off. She was Mara Vale, scientist, teacher, and perhaps, in time, mother of a kind she had never imagined, though not in the way the medical reports had predicted. For the first time, the horizon no longer seemed so harsh. It seemed full of possibility. And Caleb watched from the edge of the course, quietly proud. He had chosen wisely. The colony may have said she was unfit. The scanners may have said she was incapable. But Mara Vale had already begun proving them wrong, by simply being human. The mornings on Kestrel 9 were cold and sharp, the kind that made breath visible and teeth chatter. Mara wrapped her jacket tighter as she stepped out into the pale light of dawn. The 5 children were already awake, running around the corral, feeding the alien goats and checking the solar panels with curious eyes. Each child had a different personality, stubborn, clever, quiet, loud, or mischievous, but all shared the same resilient spark that Caleb seemed to nurture effortlessly. Mara had been with them for a few weeks now, yet she still felt like an outsider sometimes. The children would smile at her, laugh with her, even follow her instructions, but there were moments when their glances reminded her she had no title here. She was a visitor in their lives, a placeholder, a helper. Caleb noticed her hesitations. He approached her one morning while she repaired a broken water pump. "You know," he said casually, wiping the dust from his hands, "they talk about the pairing system, about you." Mara straightened, a hint of defensiveness in her voice. And nothing," Caleb said, shrugging. "Just that the colony authority says you shouldn't be here, says you're non-viable." He glanced at her, then at the children who were busy constructing a makeshift pulley system for water buckets. "But I say different." Mara looked away, uncertain whether to smile or scowl. "I don't think I belong here," she admitted softly. "Not really. I'm not what they wanted. I'm not enough." Caleb's eyes were steady, filled with the kind of quiet certainty that drew people in. "Enough?" he asked. "Mara, look at them." He nodded toward the children, who were laughing as a bucket tipped over and water splashed everywhere. "Do you see how they look at you? Do you see what you've already given them in just a few weeks? You're more than enough. You're exactly what they and I needed." Mara hesitated, feeling warmth in her chest she hadn't known she could feel again. For the first time, she considered the possibility that being non-viable didn't mean being useless. Later that day, a colony shuttle landed near the ranch. Mara watched from a distance as officials in crisp uniforms stepped out, clipboards in hand. One of them, a tall woman with sharp eyes, approached Caleb. "Rourke," she said, voice tight, "we've reviewed the pairing list. Your assignment with Vale is irregular. You've chosen someone outside the standard parameters. We recommend reassignment to someone more suitable, for the children's future, of course." Caleb did not flinch. He looked at Mara, who stood quietly behind him, unsure of what to say. "She stays," Caleb said firmly. "She's exactly the person my family needs. That's my decision." The official raised an eyebrow. "You realize this is unconventional," Caleb shrugged. "Unconventional doesn't mean wrong." The official frowned but did not press further. There were limits to the colony authorities' power on the frontier. They left, but the message was clear. The system did not approve. Mara could feel the weight of judgment pressing down, but she also felt something new: choice. Over the next days, Mara worked alongside Caleb and the children in ways she hadn't imagined. They taught her how to ride hover carts across uneven terrain, how to track alien wildlife, and how to repair basic machinery without the tools she was used to on Earth. In return, Mara introduced them to her knowledge of plants, showing how alien seeds could be coaxed into producing food in barren soil. The children began to open up more. Little Finn, the youngest, asked Mara to teach him about the glowing mushrooms that sprouted near the northern ridge. Leela, the quietest, wanted to know why Mara's hair shimmered slightly under the twin suns. Even stubborn Max, the oldest, began to follow her instructions without argument. Mara felt a bond forming, subtle but powerful. One evening, Mara found herself sitting outside with Caleb, staring at the red horizon as the twin suns sank. She hesitated before speaking. "Why did you choose me?" she asked. Her voice was barely a whisper. Caleb smiled faintly. "Because I can see what the scanners can't. I can see people. And you're more than a scan, more than a report. You care. You fight. You matter." Mara's throat tightened. She had spent years doubting her worth, feeling invisible, and now this man, a stranger in a strange world, had seen her. Truly seen her. That night, the ranch was quiet, except for the hum of the settlement generators. Mara lay awake in her small quarters, listening to the children breathing softly in the next room. She thought about the colony authorities' warnings, about the labels she had carried her whole life. But for the first time, she considered a new truth. Labels didn't define her. Actions did. Love did. Courage did. The following week brought a challenge unlike any Mara had faced. While scouting the nearby plains for alien plants, she and the children spotted a series of strange tracks. They were large, four-legged, and the soil seemed disturbed in a pattern that suggested intelligence, or at least strategy. Mara's heart raced. Predators on Kestrel 9 were rare but deadly. She called Caleb, who immediately gathered the children and prepared for a possible encounter. When the creature appeared, it was unlike anything Mara had seen. Tall, sleek, with bioluminescent markings along its back, it moved with purpose. The children froze, unsure whether to run or hide. Mara, remembering everything Caleb had taught her, stayed calm. She whispered instructions to the children: "Move slowly, don't make noise, and stay close." The creature stopped, sniffing the air as if assessing the humans. Mara felt a surge of pride in the children. They obeyed her instructions perfectly. Caleb arrived just as the creature made a decision. It turned and disappeared into the horizon, leaving the humans unharmed. Mara realized something in that moment. She had begun to matter here. Not because of labels, not because of ability to reproduce, but because she could lead, teach, and protect. The colony authorities' definition of value was irrelevant. By the next morning, the ranch had returned to its routine. The children treated Mara differently now, looking at her not just as an adult who cared for them, but as someone capable, dependable, and strong. Mara felt a sense of belonging she had never known. Then came another test, one she could not have anticipated. A dust storm swept across the plains with little warning. The sky darkened, winds howled, and the visibility dropped to nearly zero. Caleb and Mara had to guide the children back to the ranch, using only their instincts and knowledge of the land. The children clung to the carts and ropes, trusting Mara and Caleb completely. Mara's heart pounded as she led them, remembering every lesson Caleb had taught her. She barked instructions, calmed panicked voices, and ensured that every child stayed safe. By the time they reached the ranch, the storm had passed, leaving the plains eerily silent. Caleb clapped her on the shoulder. "Not bad for a scientist," he said with a grin. "You might just survive this frontier life after all." Mara laughed, feeling the exhaustion but also the exhilaration of proving herself. She realized something important. Life on Kestrel 9 was not about perfection, about labels, or about what others said you could or couldn't do. Life was about resilience, courage, and the willingness to fight for those you cared about. That night, Mara sat by the fire again, staring at the stars above. She thought about the colony authority, the scans, the labels. They had predicted a life of isolation and failure for her. Yet here she was, surrounded by people, human and child, who had chosen her, trusted her, and depended on her. Mara knew there would be more challenges ahead. Life on Kestrel 9 was harsh, unpredictable, and often dangerous. But for the first time, she believed in something she had never allowed herself to believe before, that she could be more than what the world said she was, that she could matter, that she could belong. And as she drifted off to sleep, Mara Vale allowed herself a small, cautious hope. Perhaps in this strange, red world at the edge of the galaxy, she had finally found a place where labels didn't define her, where her worth wasn't measured by what she could produce, but by what she could give: love, guidance, courage, and care. Caleb had chosen her, the children had accepted her, and for the first time, Mara began to believe in herself. The colony authority may have said she was non-viable. But here, on the frontier of human survival, she was already proving them wrong. Mara had begun to feel at home on Caleb's ranch. Days were filled with the laughter and chatter of the children, the endless tasks of keeping the settlement alive, and the small triumphs of coaxing life from the stubborn alien soil. Yet, there was still a sense of unease lingering in the air. She often found herself staring at her hands, wondering about the life the doctors had said she could never have. One afternoon, while tending to a patch of luminescent plants that glowed faintly under Kestrel 9's twin suns, Mara noticed something strange. The plants were responding unusually. When she brushed her fingers over their leaves, the bioluminescence brightened, pulsing in a rhythmic pattern as if recognizing her touch. Mara frowned, crouching to examine the soil and roots. She had been studying alien flora for months, yet she had never seen such an interaction. "Caleb," she called. He arrived quickly, dust swirling around his boots, the children trailing behind. "What is it?" he asked, scanning her anxious expression. "These plants, they're reacting to me. I don't understand why," Mara said, running her hands over the glowing leaves. "It's like they know me, or something inside me is affecting them." Caleb's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. Could it be the soil or something in the atmosphere? "I've ruled that out," Mara replied, frowning. "It's me. Something about my biology is interacting with these plants." The children, curious, leaned closer. Leela reached out and touched a leaf. It glowed, but not in the same way it had for Mara. Finn gasped. "It's like magic." Mara laughed softly, though unease lingered. "Not magic," she said. "Science. Something about me that the doctors and the scanners didn't see." That evening, Mara spoke quietly to Caleb as they watched the sun sink below the horizon. Maybe the doctors were wrong. "Maybe I can," she hesitated, not sure she could voice the thought. "Maybe I can have children after all." Caleb placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "We don't need a scanner or a test to know you're capable of love, Mara. Whatever happens, whatever you can or can't do, you matter. You already are a mother to these 5. That's what counts." Her heart tightened at his words. She had spent so long doubting herself, yet here was proof that humanity was more than labels. Caleb's faith in her was unwavering, and for the first time she considered that perhaps the world might be wrong. The days passed, and Mara's bond with the children deepened. She taught Max how to track small alien creatures, helped Leela analyze the glowing mushrooms, and showed Finn how to extract safe nutrients from hardy desert plants. Even stubborn Tori began to look to Mara for advice on solving problems. Mara realized that her presence had changed the children, not in a controlling way, but by showing them they could trust someone outside of their small family unit. Then the unexpected happened. While scouting the northern ridge for resilient plant species, Mara discovered a peculiar alien seed. It was black and smooth, almost metallic, with veins glowing faintly blue. Curious, she pocketed it, planning to study it at the ranch. But when she examined it later, it began to sprout in her hands, its tendrils wrapping gently around her fingers. The plant grew at an incredible rate, unfurling tiny leaves that seemed to recognize her touch. Mara's eyes widened. She had never seen a plant respond to human touch like this. Could it be her unique biology interacting with the alien environment? Her mind raced. The possibility was astounding and terrifying. "Caleb," she called that evening, holding the small plant. "Look at this. Something about me, it's affecting these seeds. Maybe the doctors were wrong about everything." Caleb leaned closer, studying the plant. "So, the woman they said was non-viable might actually be special?" he asked quietly. "Special, yes," Mara whispered, almost afraid to admit it aloud. "But this is just the beginning. I don't know what it means yet." The children gathered around, eyes wide. Finn reached out and touched the sprout. It glowed brightly in response. "It likes me," he shouted, his voice echoing across the plains. Mara laughed softly, feeling a mix of fear and wonder. That night, a faint tension settled over the ranch. Mara could not shake the feeling that something bigger was at play, something that connected her to this world in ways she didn't yet understand. Caleb noticed her quiet contemplation and joined her by the fire. "You're thinking too much," he said gently. "We'll figure it out together, we always do." Mara smiled faintly. He was right. Together they could handle anything this planet threw at them. But she could not ignore the whisper of hope inside her, the possibility that her body, long judged and dismissed, might hold surprises the universe had yet to reveal. The next challenge came faster than they expected. Raiders from a neighboring settlement had been attacking the outskirts, taking supplies and terrorizing anyone who dared resist. One evening, Mara noticed unusual movement near the corral. The children were asleep. Caleb was inside repairing a broken water filter, and Mara was alone, checking the perimeter. The raiders had come. Mara froze for a moment, her mind racing. She could run, hide, or try to signal Caleb, but instinct kicked in. She grabbed a makeshift tool, a long metal rod, and stood firm, ready to defend her home. The raiders advanced cautiously, perhaps expecting the ranch to be empty. Instead, Mara confronted them with calm determination. Her heart pounded, but her mind was clear. She shouted instructions for the children to stay hidden, signaling Caleb with subtle hand gestures she had learned from him during training. The raiders hesitated, clearly not expecting resistance. Mara's confidence seemed to unnerve them. When Caleb arrived, the raiders realized they had underestimated the family. The children joined in, using the pulley systems and small gadgets Mara had taught them to slow the intruders. What had seemed like an overwhelming attack quickly turned into chaos for the raiders, who fled in confusion and fear. Afterward, Mara sat with Caleb and the children, adrenaline still coursing through her veins. Finn was shaking slightly, Max had a few scrapes, but all were safe. Mara realized something profound. She had defended them not because she was supposed to, but because she could. Because she cared. Because she had become part of this human unit. "You see," Caleb said quietly as they watched the sunset, "you're more than what the scanners said. You're exactly what this family needed. You've always been." Mara smiled, tears pricking her eyes. She had spent so long thinking she was invisible, irrelevant. Yet here she was, standing strong, protecting the children she had grown to love. Humanity, she realized, was more than biology. It was courage, ingenuity, and heart. The following days were filled with both caution and wonder. Mara studied the glowing seeds and plants, discovering that her unique biology was interacting with the environment in ways that might revolutionize farming on Kestrel 9. The colony officials had written her off, but here, in this harsh world, her presence was vital. She realized that survival wasn't about genetic perfection. It was about adaptability, intelligence, and love. One quiet evening, Mara sat with Leela and Finn under the stars. "Do you think the colony authority was wrong about me?" she asked softly. Leela looked at her seriously. "Of course they were. You saved us, you teach us, you care. That's more than anyone else could do." Finn nodded vigorously. "Yeah, and the plants like you too," Mara laughed, feeling a warmth she hadn't known in years. Perhaps she didn't need validation from doctors or scanners. Perhaps her worth had always been measured by something greater, by what she could give, protect, and create. As she drifted to sleep that night, Mara Vale allowed herself a thought she had long forbidden. Maybe she could have children in ways the doctors never imagined. Maybe she could not only nurture plants and children, but life itself, even in this unforgiving world. And as the twin moons rose over Kestrel 9, casting silver light across the red plains, Mara realized something that no scanner or report could ever capture. Being human meant adapting, surviving, and caring, even when the odds were against you. The colony authority may have said she was non-viable, but Mara had already begun proving them wrong, one child, one plant, and one brave choice at a time. The morning sun rose pale and cold over Kestrel 9. Dust swirled across the plains, and Mara Vale woke to the familiar hum of the settlement's generators. The ranch had been quiet since the last raid, but Mara felt an unease that would not go away. Something told her the peace was fragile. Caleb was already outside, checking the perimeter fences. The children were helping him, their laughter a fragile shield against the harshness of the world. Mara joined them, feeling the wind tug at her coat and the familiar warmth of belonging settle in her chest. She had learned a lot about this planet in a few weeks, its plants, its wildlife, and its dangers. But she had learned more about herself, about courage, determination, and what it meant to be human. As Mara examined the glowing plants in the greenhouse, a faint movement caught her eye. She squinted through the dust. Figures were moving across the plains, moving with precision. Raiders. "They're back," Mara whispered, her heart tightening. Caleb straightened, his eyes narrowing. "Then we fight," he said calmly. "We protect our own." The children froze for a moment, fear flashing across their faces. Mara knelt beside them, her voice steady. "We can do this. We've done hard things before. We stay together, we use our brains, and we protect each other. We can survive." Max gritted his teeth. "I'm not scared. Let's get them." Mara smiled faintly. "Good. Use your heads, not just your fists." Caleb began organizing the ranch's defenses. Mara had already devised a plan with the children, using the alien plants and the tools scattered across the ranch. They dug small trenches, set up pulleys with buckets filled with sand, and positioned the glowing plants as both light and distraction. Mara's unique biology seemed to amplify the plants' glow, turning them into a natural warning system. Whenever she touched the plants, their luminescence pulsed, alerting them to movement in the darkness. By nightfall, the raiders approached. They were more numerous this time, armed with crude energy weapons and riding armored hovercycles. They expected an easy raid, but Caleb and Mara's family was ready. The first wave hit the perimeter fence. Mara touched one of the glowing plants and it pulsed brightly, startling the raiders. Children rolled sand-filled buckets down the slopes, tripping hovercycles and creating chaos. Mara directed them, shouting instructions, her voice calm and commanding. Caleb fought alongside the children, using his experience to disarm and outmaneuver the raiders. Mara's science knowledge came into play as she guided the use of alien plant features, thick vines and sticky sap, against their attackers. The raiders had underestimated the ingenuity of this human family. Hours passed. Dust choked the air and sweat and grime covered everyone's faces. Yet the family held together, working as one. Mara realized that this was what humanity was at its best: adaptive, creative, and unyielding in the face of danger. Technology and numbers could not overcome courage, intelligence, and unity. At one point, a raider broke through the defenses, aiming directly for Mara. She froze for a heartbeat, then grabbed a vine and swung it like a whip. The raider stumbled, giving Caleb time to intercept and subdue him. Mara's heart raced, but she felt alive in a way she had never known before. She was not powerless, she was essential. The children fought bravely, using what Mara had taught them. Finn and Leela created distractions, Max and Tori handled more dangerous tasks, and even the youngest, little Sam, passed buckets of sand and shouted warnings. Mara watched them, pride swelling in her chest. These children were not just survivors, they were humans who could think, adapt, and fight for their own. Finally, as the night drew to a close, the raiders retreated. They were bruised, disorganized, and thoroughly defeated. The ranch had held. Mara, Caleb, and the children stood together, exhausted but victorious. Caleb clapped Mara on the shoulder. "See, you're more than anyone thought. You're human, Mara, strong, smart, and brave." Mara smiled, sweat dripping down her face. "We did it together," she said, looking at the children. "This family, we're stronger than we realized." The next days were quiet but tense. The raid had been a warning, others might come. Mara continued to study the glowing plants, realizing that her unique biology was allowing them to survive in ways others could not. The colony authority had labeled her non-viable, but here she was, protecting life, nurturing children, and contributing to survival in ways far beyond reproduction. One morning, Mara noticed the smallest glowing plant moving toward her. Its tendrils wrapped gently around her wrist, responding to her touch. Mara felt a thrill of understanding. The plant recognized her. Her presence mattered to the world in a way she hadn't anticipated. Perhaps the colony authority was not wrong about science, but they had missed the essence of humanity: adaptability, care, and resilience. Mara shared her discoveries with Caleb and the children. They experimented together, using the plants as part of the ranch's defenses. The glowing flora became both security and life-giving tools. Mara's unique interaction with them gave the ranch an edge no raider could anticipate. Then came a message from the colony hub. The officials demanded that Caleb surrender control of the ranch, citing the dangerous presence of non-approved colonists and their unofficial family unit. Caleb read the message aloud to Mara and the children. "They want to take us apart," Max said, anger flashing in his eyes. Caleb's jaw tightened. "Not a chance. This family stays together. They may have rules, but they can't override what we built here." Mara nodded. "They may control the colony, but they don't control us. Not our hearts, not our choices." That night, the family sat together, preparing for any future attacks. Mara touched the glowing plants, feeling the pulse of life respond to her. She realized that this ranch, these children, and this man had given her a purpose she had never imagined. She was no longer just a scientist. She was a protector, a teacher, a mother in every sense that mattered. The next few weeks passed with small victories, more successful plant experiments, increased harvests, and the children growing stronger and smarter with each passing day. Mara's confidence grew. She began to see her life not as a series of limitations but as a path full of possibilities. One evening, as the twin moons rose, Mara sat with Caleb, watching the children play under the silver light. "You know," Mara said softly, "the colony authority was wrong about me. About all of us. We survived, we thrived, and we did it together." Caleb smiled, placing a hand over hers. "Humans always find a way, that's what makes us special. Not genetics, not labels. Heart, courage, and unity, that's humanity." Mara realized the truth of his words. The scanners, the rules, the warnings, they didn't measure the most important qualities of life. Adaptability, bravery, and love could not be quantified, and yet they were the forces that would allow humanity to survive anywhere, even on a harsh, red world at the edge of the galaxy. The future remained uncertain. More raiders could come. The colony could send officials. The challenges would never end. But Mara Vale no longer feared the unknown. She had a family, a home, and a purpose. She had proven, not to the world but to herself, that being human was enough, that she was enough. As the stars sparkled above Kestrel 9, Mara touched the glowing plants one last time before sleep, feeling the pulse of life respond to her. She had found her place in the universe, not because she was expected to, not because she fit a label, but because she chose to fight, care, and belong. And in that quiet, red world, the Frontier family rested, stronger than ever, ready to face whatever came next. The colony authority had said she was non-viable, but Mara, Caleb, and their children had already proven that humanity could thrive against all odds. The morning on Kestrel 9 dawned bright and clear, with twin suns casting long shadows over the red plains. For Mara Vale, it was another day of hard work, but unlike before, there was a quiet confidence in her step. She moved among the children, helping with the morning chores, checking the glowing plants and preparing for the tasks ahead. She had grown into her role as protector, teacher, and nurturer. Every day reaffirmed what she already knew. Labels didn't define her, choices did. Caleb was already outside, repairing the outer fence with tools scavenged from the previous raid. He glanced at Mara as she approached. "Morning," he said with a grin. "Looks like another peaceful day if the raiders stay away." Mara laughed softly. "I'll believe it when it happens, but today feels different. I can feel it." The children ran past them, laughter echoing across the plains. Max carried a basket of harvested plants. Leela guided Finn on examining alien insects. Tori checked the water filters, and Sam chased a glowing seedling that had sprouted from Mara's touch. The sight warmed Mara's heart. These 5 children, scarred, orphaned, and wary at first, had become a family united by choice, courage, and care. But the quiet did not last. A colony shuttle descended on the horizon, kicking up clouds of red dust. Mara's heart sank for a moment. Colony officials rarely came unannounced, and when they did, it was seldom good news. Caleb squared his shoulders. "Looks like we have company," he said calmly. "Stay ready." As the shuttle landed, several officials stepped out, led by a tall woman in crisp uniform. Mara could see the mix of surprise and judgment in their eyes as they looked at the ranch, the glowing plants, the organized defenses, and most of all, the family. "Rourke," the lead official began, her voice firm, "this settlement is in violation of colony authority regulations. You are harboring unauthorized colonists, including Vale, and maintaining a family unit outside the official system. We demand compliance." Caleb stepped forward, standing tall and unwavering. "This is my home. These children and Mara are my family. We will not be separated. You can enforce regulations all you want, but this family stays together." Mara felt a surge of pride. She had grown from someone labeled non-viable to a woman capable of standing strong in the face of authority, and she would not back down. The lead official's eyes flicked to Mara. "Vale, are you aware that your presence here defies regulations? You could face reassignment." Mara met her gaze calmly. "I am aware, and I am not leaving. These children need me. This land needs me. I choose to stay." A murmur ran through the officials. No one had expected such defiance from a single colonist, and Mara's quiet strength left them unsettled. Caleb's hands remained steady at his sides, a clear anchor for the family. The children watched silently, their trust in Mara and Caleb unwavering. The lead official sighed, clearly frustrated. "This is unprecedented. We will review your case, but know that you are being closely observed." As the officials departed, Mara exhaled, tension leaving her shoulders. Caleb placed a hand over hers. "See, you're stronger than they thought, stronger than anyone thought." Mara smiled, looking at the children playing nearby. "It's not just me," she said. "It's all of us. Together we're unstoppable." That night, as the twin moons rose and bathed the plains in silver light, Mara sat by the fire with Caleb. "You know," she said quietly, "I think I've finally figured it out. It's not about what I can't do, it's about what I choose to do." "That's what makes me me," Caleb nodded. "And that's exactly what makes us human, not labels, not scans, choices, courage, love." Mara reached into her pocket and pulled out one of the strange, glowing seeds she had discovered weeks ago. It had grown into a small, thriving plant that pulsed gently in her hand. "I think this plant knows me," she said softly. "It's like the world responds to us, to humans who care and fight. The colony authority never saw that. They couldn't," Caleb smiled. "That's the frontier. The rules out there mean nothing compared to heart and ingenuity. Humans always find a way." In the following weeks, Mara's unique biology continued to show its value. Plants flourished under her care, producing larger and more nutritious crops than the colony had ever expected from Kestrel Nine's harsh soil. Wildlife responded to her presence, aiding in pollination and seed dispersal. The children's education advanced rapidly. They learned not only survival skills, but also the subtle art of understanding alien ecosystems. Word began to spread among nearby settlements. Stories circulated of the ranch where the non-viable scientist had tamed the glowing plants, defended the children, and built a thriving home in a place others called impossible. The colony authority could no longer dismiss her contributions. Mara had proven, through ingenuity, courage, and compassion, that humanity's greatest strength was in its heart, not its labels. Then came the ultimate revelation. During a routine medical checkup at the colony hub, performed reluctantly by the officials who had long condemned her, Mara learned the truth. Her reproductive system was not defective. The scanners had been wrong. Years of misdiagnosis combined with Kestrel Nine's unique environment had created an illusion. She could have children. Mara stared at the medical officer in disbelief. I can," the officer nodded. "It appears so. You were never infertile. The scans were inaccurate." The colony authorities' conclusions were mistaken. Mara felt a flood of emotions, shock, relief, and something deeper, almost overwhelming. Yet as she left the medical bay, she realized it didn't matter. Her family was complete, not because of biology, but because of choice, courage, and love. She had already nurtured 5 children, protected them from harm, and created a thriving home in the unforgiving frontier. Back at the ranch, Mara shared the news with Caleb. I could have children," she said softly. Caleb took her hands in his. "And yet look around. You already have children, you already have a family. You've given life, love, and protection. That's more than anyone could ask for." Mara nodded, understanding fully. Her worth was never determined by biology alone. It was measured by action, care, and courage, the very traits that had allowed this family to survive, thrive, and defy every expectation. The colony gradually changed its view of her. Officials began consulting Mara on agricultural methods, settlement planning, and frontier survival. Mara and Caleb's ranch became a model for human ingenuity on Kestrel 9, demonstrating how courage, adaptability, and human spirit could overcome even the harshest environments. Years passed. The ranch expanded, becoming a hub for settlers seeking guidance, protection, and community. The children grew strong and capable, carrying forward the lessons of resilience and humanity they had learned from Mara and Caleb. The glowing plants thrived, a testament to the unique bond between human and world. Mara stood on a hill overlooking the ranch, watching the children play in the late afternoon sun. Caleb approached quietly, wrapping an arm around her shoulder. "You see that?" he asked, nodding toward the bustling activity below. "All of this, we did it together." Mara smiled, feeling the warmth of family, love, and accomplishment. "We did," she said softly. "The colony authority may have said I was non-viable. The scanners may have been wrong, but look at what humanity can do. Look at what we can do." Caleb kissed her forehead gently. "Humans always find a way, Mara, and now our legacy is secure." As the twin suns dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in red and gold, Mara Vale realized the truth she had been searching for her entire life. It was not biology, labels, or authority that defined her. It was choice, courage, and love. She had chosen to stay. She had chosen to protect. She had chosen to care. And in doing so, she had created something stronger than any report or scanner could measure: a family, a home, and a legacy of humanity's finest qualities. The frontier had tested them all, and they had emerged stronger. Mara looked at Caleb and the children, her heart swelling with pride. In a harsh world at the edge of the galaxy, humans had not only survived, they had thrived. They had faced danger, defied expectations, and proven that humanity's greatest strength was not in perfection, but in courage, ingenuity, and love. The colony authorities' words no longer mattered. Mara Vale had rewritten her own story, and in doing so, she had shown the galaxy what it truly meant to be human. And as the stars glittered above Kestrel 9, a new chapter began, one filled with hope, resilience, and the unyielding strength of humanity.